He says early worm gets caught by the bird. I'd rather be the bird than the worm for sure. I'd rather be the bird than the worm. But back to my point, back to my original train of thought. How do you stand out in this world in 2025? Having a supercar will really make you stand out. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's the equivalent of being a noble or even a king in ancient medieval times, you know? Everybody recognizes that you're successful. When you pull up in that car, everybody recognizes that you're successful. There's nobody that is going to be like, oh, that guy's a bum. It doesn't matter what you look like. In fact, I would argue that when you have one of those cars, dress down. That's what I used to do. I love seeing the expression that people have on their face when they see you looking like a bum and then you hop in a supercar. Never gets old. It never gets old. And even more so if they treat you like shit, like you go to the bank or something and you walked in and they treated you fucked up. And then you know how there's always like the person in the bank that when you walk in the doors, they're like standing in the door and they like ask you, like, oh, how can we help you today? It's always great when you walk in there like a fucking bum and they treat you like shit. Then you go deposit like $50K into your bank account and then you're leaving and then they look through the doors to see where you're going to go and you pop in a supercar and you can see the fucking, you can see their face. You can see their face contort. I love that. I love that. So you will definitely stand out. But how else can you stand out in 2025? You can stand out by being jacked. You know, I would argue that being jacked, having a good physique, having abs, defined abs, having muscles, having traps, that will make you stand out almost more than having a car. You know, it's a harder car. I would almost say that being shredded, having visible abs is harder than getting a supercar, harder than making six figures a year, harder than having thousands of dollars in your bank account, because it requires actual real discipline. You know, a lot, at least for me, you would think that, yo, Scott is thin. It should be a problem for Scott. But in reality, I'm going to say that controlling your body, controlling what goes into your body, and also your pain endurance is harder. It's harder than getting a supercar. He says maybe it's like that for older people trying to impress each other, but long as you have something nice looking or sound cool, you're going to stand out. But I mean, really stand out, Kanai. Because sure, I mean, I'm not going to argue against that. If you have a nice Mustang, if you have a nice Corvette, if you have a nice anything, a BMW, you're going to stand out. But when you have the supercar, it's like you're standing out extra because when you pull up in the BMW M3, yeah, people can be like, oh, nice car. Love it. But when you pull up in the supercar, they're not going to say nothing to you. They're going to be sitting back and just looking like, oh, shit. They're going to be scared to approach you. And I feel like that them being scared to approach you, the normies, them being scared to approach you is almost a more powerful experience than the people who approach you when you have a normal nice car. Because when you have the supercar, you can almost manipulate the people that are watching into doing anything for you. Does that make sense? Because most people, if they're scared to approach you and then you see them there looking at you and you come over to them and be like, yo, hey, I'm having an issue, bro. Can you do this for me or do that for me? Or, hey, I don't know. You ask them for some sort of favor. Most of them are going to instantly cave because they're already impressed. They've already put you in a pedestal in their mind. But that's my point. They think that you own a company or you're rich. And they think, because you got to remember, look, it's an exploit. Human beings biologically were programmed to try and find some sort of reciprocation. So we think like, oh, if I help this stranger by giving him water in the desert, he might help me later down in the future. He might help me in the future, especially if they see the person has something that they want. They'll be like, it's like a bartering system. So when a person sees you pull up with a diamond chain, a Rolex, and a supercar, they think that, oh, if I help them, they'll help me. But in reality, in most cases, the person, if you help them, they're not going to help you at all. You know, it's the same thing we see with streaming. There's a reason why there will be a guy who works at an Amazon warehouse and he'll donate his last check to a guy like Kai Cenat. Because he's being biologically hacked. His instincts are telling him, oh, this person who has leverage in the community can help me in the future. So if I help them now, they'll help me in the future. But the problem is that you're wrong because the person is not going to help you in the future. That's why I said being shredded is harder than having a supercar. Being shredded, maintaining your body, going to the gym every single day is harder than making money. It is. Because think about it this way. When you're making money, that shit is on half the time that shit's on autopilot, bro. Think about in most situations where you start making money, it's on autopilot. You get some sort of career that pays you a decent amount of money, that's autopilot. You start a business, you hire some employees, that shit goes on autopilot. The money starts making more money, makes more money. But working out, going to the gym, eating right, that takes discipline every single fucking day. Every day. Like, you can go into, like, for example, last year when I first started going to the gym, I was on a roll. Like, I would go 4 or 5 times a week. But little by little, you know, I moved out to this new spot, and that discipline has gone away, right? And also, forget about just going to the gym and working out. Eating right, that's hard as fuck to do. Eating clean is hard to do. And also, even if you do end up going to the gym every single day, pushing yourself to the point where you're actually going to make gains, extremely hard. Extremely hard. You know, I go to the gym, and this Monday when I went, I did push myself. I almost was lifting 2 plates. 2 plates. But I don't know what got in. I pushed myself hard because the night before I was like, I've been slacking. And I think Bailey and I watched something on YouTube that had motivated me. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go crazy in the gym tomorrow. But for the most part, when I'm in there in this little apartment gym, I'm not that motivated at all. Like, there's no pressure. There's no pressure. The only pressure comes from myself, you know? And the thing is that when you're working out and you start to feel pain, it's hard as hell to say, I'm going to power through this pain and keep going. I'm going to keep going. That takes real discipline. That takes more discipline than making a few business decisions to make money. Two plates is, in my opinion, 2 plates is a lot. He says, I'm almost to 2 plates. I had 45s and 35. So I only need 10 on each side. I need 20 more pounds to be to have 2 plates. But I just think that it takes a lot of discipline, bro. Because even the craziest thing is you go in there, right? And you start lifting. You start lifting. At first, you're good. But the longer you stay in there, the harder it is until you get to the point where it's like, I can't even do 5 in a row anymore. You're just too tired. And realistically, I think that you probably could push yourself to do the 10 reps at the very end before you leave. Like when you're already tired, but you just don't got the mental fortitude to do it. You know, when you're making money, you're never going to have that scenario. There's no scenario where you make a financial decision that's wrong and you feel actual pain. Like most of the time, people who don't make decent financial decisions is because they're greedy and they do too much, too fast, and they fail. But if you have a sound mind and you're logical and you're precise, then you're good. Like making money is easy. He says, gang, it's because you don't go to the gym like that. Kanai, the only time I felt like I was really making crazy strides was when I was going to the public gym. In the public gym, I felt more pressure to go crazy in that bitch because there were people there and, you feel the pressure of people looking at you. And I'm like, I don't want to look like a fool. I want to make sure I'm doing this in proper form because I don't want to be doing it incorrectly. And I was like obsessed. Like for that first year of going to the gym, I was 100% obsessed. I would just sit there and watch video after video after video after video after video after video after video about fitness. But now that I don't have that pressure on me, I'm kind of just going and I'm just going through the motions. I'm just going through the motions. But Kanai, the thing is that most people, their body adapts to, let's say I get to the 2 plates, right? I get to the 2 plates. When you get to the 2 plates, you know how hard it is for you to continue to be motivated and say, okay, I'm gonna put 2 plates and I'm gonna also add 5 to each side. I'm gonna add 10 more pounds. I'm gonna add 20 more pounds. Like, that's hard to do, man. Because your mind is gonna tell you not to do it. Your mind doesn't like pain. I mean, everybody's different. There's some niggas that have high pain endurance. They have more discipline, or they're able to work through it. But I don't think I'm one of those kind of guys, bro. Because when I start feeling that pain, the real pain, I stop. Yeah, the human body wants to be lazy. And then also the second pitfall is when you really do go to the gym and go crazy in that bitch. When you get home, your body is like, your body's telling you rest, conserve energy. You know? That's one of the other pitfalls of working out. Like, your body always wants to go back to homeostasis. It wants to go back to the average, the medium.